Sony, a Japanese company that's now worth over $169 billion, once upon a time, it used to be just a small radio repair shop that started up when Japan had just been devastated by losing the World War. And let me tell you, Sony's journey to get to where it is today was anything but a bed of roses. Sony built things and failed, built things and failed, over and over again. The question is, every time Sony built something and it collapsed, how did they manage to bounce back? They came back even stronger each time, and this is what inspired me when I read about it. I'm sharing this story today because the way Sony picked themselves up from failure embodies the fighting spirit and business acumen of the Japanese. Sony's journey through every competitive arena has been intense. Where high profits are at stake, competition is always fierce. And what makes this story especially interesting right now is that at this moment, Sony's stock, right now, it's on the rise, and it looks like it's just about to hit an all-time high. As for today's story, I truly believe it will inspire anyone who's dreaming, just starting out, or in the process of building something to keep going. Today, let's listen to the story of every field Sony has competed in and how they managed to build an empire from nothing to hundreds of millions. You can support the story of Sony's journey from zero to hundreds of millions on Psy Money Monster's channel by scanning this QR code. Or it's super easy to support the Psy Money Monster channel. Just hit like, share, and leave a comment to chat and have fun with us. Send your inspiration to me, Psy, and to everyone who comes to read. And most importantly, please don't forget to hit subscribe. So next time I upload a new video, we'll get to meet again. Thanks. Today, I have to start Sony's story by carefully setting the scene from that day. The scene I'm going to tell begins on August 6th and 9th, 1945, when the United States dropped devastating atomic bombs on Japan, specifically at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. More than 100,000 people died instantly, and Japan was ultimately forced to surrender and accept a total defeat in the war. As for the main characters in this story, their names are Akio Morita and Masaru Ibuka. They were two engineers who used to design weapons and technology for the Japanese military during the war. But as soon as the war ended, they both lost their jobs, since there were no more weapons to design. In a way, that was actually a good thing, because even though Akio and Masaru loved technology and being engineers, they weren't exactly thrilled that their work was being used to make weapons. These two thought that they wanted to create technology that would improve people's quality of life. After Japan lost the war, Akio went off to teach at a university, while Masaru started his own small company. Honestly, I've told a lot of stories about companies that went from nothing to being worth billions. And in many of those stories, when companies start out small and are about to grow, they always face tough business challenges and pressures. That's perfectly normal. But Masaru's company at that time wasn't normal because the pressure on his company didn't come from the standard cutthroat business competition. But it was much darker than that. I want you to picture the scene that day. Masaru started his company after Japan lost the war, right? So the backdrop for Masaru's small company at that time was the devastation of Japan. It was honestly one of the worst places in the world to start a business. The major cities in Japan were in ruins back then. In Japan at that time, about 50% of the population was homeless. And when you don't have a home, you don't have money or decent clothes to wear either. Don't forget, Japan is cold. So the typical scene you would see along the streets was people frozen to death by the roadside. As for families that were separated, there was no point in trying to look for each other. It was extremely difficult to reunite. There were no tools or means of communication. So back then, not only were people homeless and freezing to the point they couldn't survive, but they also had no loved ones, no family, and no way to search for them. They didn't even know if their family members were still alive. And during that time, you might have heard about it, right? That Japanese women had go sleep with, basically provide services to the GI soldiers from the United States, agreeing to do it in exchange for food. As for the men, there were no legal jobs available for them. So what did they do? They joined the Yakuza gangs, and that's how the Japanese mafia came about in that era. But what did Masaru do? He started a company. With that kind of perseverance, Masaru went on to invent things. He created his own inventions and innovations. He tried hard, and it seemed like it should work, but it just didn't. Nothing was quite right. The timing was off, the equipment wasn't good, nothing was going well at all. The first thing Masaru invented was an electric rice cooker, but it cooked rice unevenly. Sometimes it was raw, sometimes burnt, basically a total flop. He didn't stop though. Next, he made an electric blanket and tried it out. Turns out, sometimes it was warm, but sometimes it caught fire. So that didn't work either. It broke down. But Masaru didn't give up. One thing Masaru believed was that every time he failed, it was actually a step that brought him closer to success. He just kept going, never stopping, always looking for new ways to make a living. Until finally, he found one way that actually worked, which was repairing radios. In business, being skilled just isn't enough. I've told you many stories. Skill matters, but you also need luck. Our job is to stay ready so when luck comes, we can seize it. As for the radio repair business Masaru found, it worked because it was right after World War II. During the war, the Japanese government cut radio wires and destroyed sets to block news broadcasts from the United States. But after the war ended, there were still no radios to use. People had nothing to listen to, not even music. Basically, radios across the whole country were broken. So Masaru saw this as an opportunity and offered radio repair services. At that time, Masaru started traveling around, providing radio and radio wire repair services. It became a big deal, and eventually, magazines picked up the story about Masaru fixing radios and wrote articles about it. At that time, Akio, an old friend from when they used to work together designing war weapons, came across the magazine article about Masaru. So Akio immediately reached out to Masaru like, "Hey buddy, is there anything I can help you with?" When Masaru saw Akio get in touch, he was really happy, and the two of them decided right then and there that, all right, let's get back to working together. Let's start a company together. At that time, his father agreed and let Akio do what he loved, even giving him 190,000 yen in funding. After that, Akio and Masaru teamed up and officially registered the company under the name Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation. The name was a bit long, and his company would later become Sony. After taking on jobs repairing radio wires and such, Masaru and Akio started to have some capital. During that time, they also developed and invented new technologies. Some were successful, some flopped, so it wasn't always a hit, but it wasn't a total failure either. Until 1950, when they got a job making a tape recorder for the Japanese government, which honestly wasn't that great. But it was actually a really good thing that they got to do it, because that radio device they made for the government back then became the foundation for building a portable radio. And in 1952, Masaru heard some big news. There was a company in the United States that had invented what they called the latest mic technology. Back then, it was called the Transistor. Wow, it was a groundbreaking technology, truly revolutionary for the industry. And that company that invented the transistor was selling the rights to manufacture the transistor. So Akio flew to America right away to buy those rights and bring them back. And when Akio went to America, he didn't just come back with the license to manufacture transistors, but there was something else Akio brought back as well. He got to see America itself, the towering skyscrapers, the cutting-edge services, all the advanced technology, and it made Akio realize that his Japan at that time was outdated. That day, Akio made a vow to himself. One day, he would make Made in Japan a phrase that truly means something to the world, even though at that time, he had no idea how he was going to do it. So since they were already aiming to create world-class technology products, why not change the brand name? The old one was way too long. What was it again? Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation? Yeah, maybe it's time for a change. So they grabbed a heavy dictionary and eventually found the word sonus, which is the Latin term for sound. Then they also came across the word sunny, which was common slang for a young man. So they tried saying them both together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, all together now. Sony! Hey, that actually sounds really cool. Let's go with that. And so they used the name Sony for their very latest product, which featured the brand new Transistor technology. They produced what was basically a portable radio, meaning it was smaller. And it turned out that Sony's first batch of portable radios using Transistor technology was a hit. Yeah, it was a huge hit the following year. Exactly. But 95% of the radios Sony produced in that first batch were actually defective. They all had problems. So things got pretty bad because customers started to develop this perception that Sony products weren't good quality. They suffered a lot of losses, lost a huge amount of their investment. So at that point, Sony had to solve the problem by taking out a loan. Once they got the money, they started over. What Sony did was carefully list out every single problem they had and fix them one by one, improving the quality each time. Until finally, in 1955, after many years of honing their skills, they managed to launch the world's very first portable radio, called the TR-63. Do you happen to know why? It was small enough to sit in a shirt pocket and cheap enough to be sold to the mass market. And it was this TR-63 portable radio that really propelled Sony to the next level, from just an ordinary company to becoming one of the biggest companies in Japan. After that, by 1957, Sony had 1,200 employees. In 1960, Sony started selling its products in the United States for the first time, and Sony became the first Japanese company to do so, to be listed on the US stock exchange. After transistors, let's move on to the next field, color television. To be honest, color TVs had already existed in the world since the mid-1950s. At Black and White YouTube? Boy, press an ISPOT World joint now, Dell. But color TVs back then were kind of blurry, not very bright, and the picture quality wasn't great. Plus, they were expensive, so people still preferred to watch black and white TV. That was called pain point. This pain point is actually a classic rule in business. In the business game, when it comes to pain points, whoever spots them first, solves them first, and solves them better, wins. And in 1960, Sony started producing its own color TVs for the first time. But Sony didn't just take the old technology and improve it. They started by designing brand new technology from scratch. Sony pulled it off. But it didn't go well at all. That batch of color TVs Sony produced was basically a disaster. Almost every single unit had problems. At that time, they had already spent a ton of money developing and manufacturing these color TVs, and they had to sell them at a loss, like a 50% loss just to clear out that batch. It was one of the biggest losses in Sony's history. And yes, this wasn't the first time Sony messed up. They'd had plenty of failures before. But Masaru didn't give up. He kept fighting. Masaru told his team to completely reimagine everything from scratch. Like, hey, let's figure out how a color TV should really work, how it should function, and what kind of technology it needs. Whatever mistakes we made before, just forget about them. You can make mistakes, but you can't just push through without fixing them. So as soon as they made a list, they tackled each issue one by one. Once they fixed something, they improved its quality. And after they improved the quality, what did they do next? Do you know? They found ways to cut costs. That's right. And so Sony gave birth to a color TV called the Trinitron, which had a brighter picture. It was sharper than any other color TV on the market at that time. You could say that Sony finally won. And that victory in the color TV market allowed Sony to dominate color TV sales for decades. In fact, Sony sold about 290 million Trinitron TVs worldwide and even won an Emmy Award in 1973. And then it was the Trinitron Color TV that, for the first time, made the phrase "made in Japan" truly meaningful to the world, just as Akio had always intended. Next up was the videotape recorder. Another pain point Sony encountered in the 1970s was that people watch TV, right? But back then, you could only watch shows at their scheduled broadcast times. If you missed your favorite show when it aired, that was it. You missed it for good. Like, say, a drama series. The finale is super exciting, you've watched the whole thing, and then, when it comes to the last episode, but if you had something to do when we're out of the house, you just couldn't watch it, and there was no way to rewatch it later either. That's a tragedy. That's just sad. We get it. But why are you laughing? But seriously, these days, if you want to watch something, you can just watch a rerun, right? You can go on a platform and watch the rerun, so there's no problem. But back then, that just wasn't possible. And I know how sad that was. If you'd watched an entire series and then missed the finale, that was it. So seeing this pain point, they came up with the Betamax videotape recorder. Basically, if you had something to do and were out of the house, you could ask someone at home to record the show for you, and then you could watch it as many times as you wanted. And of course, the Betamax machine really hit the pain point perfectly, right? That's why it was such a huge success. At first, because you know why? Because not long after it was released, a competitor came out called the VHS machine. It was also a videotape recorder, but VHS was cheaper. So unbelievably, Betamax totally flopped. Its sales dropped way down. This lesson teaches us something, you know? In the game of identifying pain points, even if you solve the problem first and do it well, but if someone else comes along later and solves the problem for less, you'll still lose. This is just like the game the United States is playing with China right now. The US might innovate first, but if China can do it cheaper, they have a chance to win too. So in the Betamax game, you could say Sony lost. They took a pretty big financial hit from this. But losing in this arena is okay. They just moved on to the next one. Walkman? If you're from the same generation as me, you probably know this one. 4 years after launching the Betamax, in 1979, Sony introduced the Walkman, a portable music player that let you use headphones so you could listen to music without bothering anyone else. The inspiration came from Akio, who had to travel all over the world for business negotiations and such. He would get bored while traveling, so he started thinking, wouldn't it be great if I could listen to music during my trips without disturbing anyone else? That's how the Walkman was invented. But back then, there was a problem. Even though the Walkman let you use headphones and not bother others, the issue was actually cultural. In Japan at that time, the only people who wore headphones were those with hearing impairments. So if you wore them, people would look at you funny. People would wonder if you were deaf or something like that. So wearing headphones wasn't really seen as cool. That's why people doubted whether the Walkman could really become Sony's next big hit. But Akio thought, let's just go for it. We'll do the best we can. Akio even announced that if the Walkman didn't sell at least 30,000 units after launch, he would. He said, I'll resign, But when the Walkman was released, it actually exceeded expectations a bit. They ended up selling a total of 385 million units, so Akio didn't have to resign after all. Plus, this time, they sold so many that they got extra capital to expand their empire. And for their next move, wow, they were about to disrupt other industries. The next battlefield Sony entered was the CD arena. By this point, Sony had plenty of capital and was ready to go on the offensive. Their aggressive strategy was just getting started, especially in the CD market. This time, Sony wasn't just developing products anymore. Products are developed to be sold, to do business, to make money, right? So besides developing the product, this time Sony also designed a revenue model at the same time, and it was a huge success. Back then, Sony spent 14 years and invested $30 million, working together with CBS Records and Philips to create the compact disc, or CD. It was used to record sound in digital format. As for the revenue model, Sony designed it really well, with 4 channels spreading out the risk. The first was generating income from CD manufacturing plants. This one's pretty straightforward. The second was selling licenses to become CD manufacturers, just like when Sony once bought the license to produce transistors, right? The third is selling CD players as well. Sony started selling CD players for the first time in 1982. And the fourth channel is selling music from artists under Sony Music Entertainment, which is currently the second largest label in the world. The way they design the product alongside the revenue model is really impressive, because Sony's 4 revenue streams are all interconnected. If CDs become popular, let's say Sony creates. If CDs take off and become popular and people really like them, then other companies will want to produce CDs too. So the revenue from selling licenses to produce CDs will increase. And when more people are making CDs, what happens? CD players will sell even more. The more popular CDs get, the more Sony can produce, and their CD manufacturing plants will make more money. And if CD players sell really well, right, everyone ends up having a CD player. Sony created artists and sold their music in CD format, which made it easier to sell and boosted sales even more. And this cycle just kept repeating. That's what made CDs a product that really helped Sony grow, like a snowball effect. In 1988, Sony, which had previously partnered with CBS Records, decided to stop the partnership and just bought CBS Records outright for $2 billion. And another key strategy for Sony is that they never stopped moving forward. They kept fighting and moving forward, winning, then moving forward again, and even if they lost, they still kept going, until the next arena, after breaking into the music industry, Sony set its sights on the gaming industry next. In 1991, Sony jumped into the gaming world. At first, Sony actually partnered with Nintendo to develop something together. But as things progressed, Nintendo started to realize, hey, Sony's resources in technology include CDs and all that. Nintendo was afraid Sony would betray them, but for some reason, Nintendo betrayed Sony first. Sony was furious, and it turned into a back-and-forth battle. In the end, Sony released the PlayStation 1 and 2, beating Nintendo. They won with sales numbers reaching 250 million units. That's the combined sales of both PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. After conquering the gaming arena, Sony, somehow still full of energy, moved on to the next field. Movies. And when Sony entered the movie industry, you could say Sony was really lucky. Back in 1989, Sony bought Columbia Pictures Entertainment, which is now Sony Pictures Entertainment. And then in 1998, there was a company that was in desperate need of cash, which was Marvel. At that time, Marvel was strapped for cash and needed money urgently. So they thought, what should we do to get quick cash? They decided to sell off anything they could and ended up selling their most profitable character, Spider-Man, to Sony for just $7 million. Sony was thrilled. After Sony got Spider-Man, they started churning out Spider-Man movies like crazy, starting in 2002, the first time Sony produced a Spider-Man movie. They spent a budget of $140 million. Do you know how much they made back? $825 million from just that one movie. After that, Sony started releasing a Spider-Man movie every 4 or 5 years, right? Up until now, do you know how much money Sony has made from the Spider-Man character they bought the rights to? $9 billion from an initial investment of just $7 million. Talk about lucky, right? Super lucky. And honestly, Sony actually had the chance to make even more money from Marvel because back then, Marvel was broke back then. They offered to sell the Avengers roster to Sony for $25 million, but Sony declined. If they'd taken the deal, maybe they'd be even richer now, or maybe it wouldn't have paid off. After that, Sony just kept going. They really didn't stop. They kept moving forward, expanding from radios and all sorts of gadgets, getting bigger and bigger. Eventually, they moved into life insurance, banking, technology, robotics, biotech, electric vehicles, you name it. They tried everything, sometimes failing, sometimes getting back up, sometimes winning. That's Sony for you. They were that good, had that much capital, and yet they still failed. It wasn't just bad luck, it was misfortune. For example, they once got hacked by North Korea. Seth's try mentioned this. It happened when Sony made the movie The Interview. In the movie, they mocked the North Korean leader, so North Korea hacked them. At that time, even Obama said North Korea must be held responsible. But it was still kinda unclear whether it was really North Korea who did the hacking or not. Still, at that time, the damage was massive, really severe, but Sony managed to bounce back anyway. So the story I want to share today, maybe you're just listening for fun, maybe you're listening before bed or while you're eating, or maybe you have a dream you're chasing, something you want to do, something you're just starting, or something you're already working on. I think that today's story, it could really inspire you, you know? Look, even Sony started from nothing and made it to hundreds of billions. So just don't stop, keep going. And you never know, maybe your dream or whatever you're working on right now, even if it seems small, it might end up reaching hundreds of billions too. And don't forget to come back and tell me about it sometime.